Yeah, sounds good. Works. Okay, good. Hi, welcome everyone. So let's do this human design talk. Streaming in the group, right? It's streaming into the group?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So good morning. Today is January 13th. One more day until Shelly's birthday. So that'll be fun. Let's see. So let me share my screen. All right. So here is the presentation. I can drop the link in the group for you. Here's the link to the presentation in the chat. Okay, there you go. Okay, here we go. All right, so welcome to the human design for Shelley's group. And in the slideshow, you can click on the left side and you can get a free profile. And from either of these two links, and then here's a registration link. Okay, and then also next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday, the 21st, I'll do another presentation about gene keys and a little bit of discussion about shadow work. So you can get your free profile for gene keys there, and then you can register if you want to be on the Zoom. Okay, so human design, there's 4 archetypes, like the generator, the projector, the manifestor, and the reflector. If you could just picture 4 types of people and just imagine what these words might mean, like generator, it's probably somebody that makes things or puts things together or something. A projector is probably someone that looks out ahead and sees some vision. A manifester is like working to impact others, right? Um, and then a reflector only will reflect what they believe in, right? It's interesting to look at these different types. Reflectors, so right here on the bottom, it talks about like a generator, attract and respond, a projector absorbs and focuses, a manifester impacts and repels, and then a reflector reflects and samples information. Okay. Then there's like this discussion of different line types. So at the bottom, you have the investigator. So if somebody says, I'm a line 1, that means that they're an investigator. Line 2 is the hermit. 3 is a martyr. 4, opportunistic. 5 is a heretic. And 6 is a role model. So these are some websites that you can get your free profile based on your birthday, time of birth, and where you were born. And then that corresponds to where the sun, moon, and stars were at that time, to give you your natal chart and then your human design. Okay. So for example, for me, I'm an emotional manifesting generator. So if you look on the right side, emotional manifesting generator, my profile type would be 2-4. So line 2, line 4. 2 is hermit. So usually a hermit would do their own thing, but then since I got the opportunistic part too, I'll show up to do things such as this class, right? The opportunity came up and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do it. On here, it talks about my inner authority is solar plexus. Um, this is the emotional authority of the manifesting generator style. So this is related a little bit to the chakra discussion that Shelly's been having with you all. Solar plexus, like ego expression, stuff like that. So when it says emotional manifesting generator, for me, now that I've learned some of these things, what works best is when I ride the high of the emotion, the low of the emotion, and then decide on something. And then in the middle here, it talks about split definition. So on the left chart here, there's different lines and colors and stuff, and you can spend like years studying all this stuff. I'm just trying to give you a little overview as a place to flow into for if you're integrating any life-changing events or experiences. Like I really think like human design is like an end all be all, like it was channeled through humans. So don't get stuck with like only ascribing yourself to one thing. Be open to this and other things to help guide you into being like your true self. Okay, so the split definition, if you look on the left side, there's a line between 50 and 27. Okay, so that's one like connected channel. That's like in my mind, I that for me that would be like a gut feeling. And then the other part of the chart, like the head and the ajna and all this stuff on the right side is all connected all the way down to like my root. So that's the emotional piece to go with the analytical piece. Okay. So when you go do your chart when you were born, it'll make all these lines and stuff, and there's a lot of information here. And to me, sometimes I look at the human design and natal chart as like the masculine structure of like you and yourself. And like the gene keys is like more of the feminine stuff of like how you show up and be. And I'll talk about that more next time. But for now, just think about like where was the moon and the stars and the sun when you were born, and that would determine your human design. Okay, so these are some screenshots from the Genetic Matrix website just showing different human design charts and then also like themes. So I'm gonna check like the comments and stuff and see if anybody needs anything so far. I'm gonna check like the comments. All right, we're good so far. Okay. Okay. All right, back to this. Okay, so here's where the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets were um, based on when I was born, where I was born, and all that. So if you're looking at the natal chart on the left, it says sun sign Taurus. So Taurus is like this green with two horns. So that's that. The sun is like these two circles that are concentric. That's the sun. So in Taurus, the sun was there and also the moon was there. For me, my moon sign is also Taurus and my sun sign is also Taurus. My rising or antecedent sign is Cancer. You can go way in depth in all of this stuff, but just the kind of the overview would be, oh, looks like Shelly's cats decided to knock over a bunch of stuff. They're like, come play with me. I think they knocked down all the lids for all the canning jars. That's my guess. That's always the game now. Back years ago, I used to hear every little noise, and I heard somebody trying to steal our catalytic converters. And then now with the cats, they knock over so much stuff that I'm just like, oh, what did they knock over now? Because before I'd be like, oh, who's there and stuff. But the cats are crazy. It's not the cats. Oh, it's not the cats.
It's the washing machine is.
Oh, the washing machine. Oh, okay. I guess be careful not to blame things until you're sure, right? Okay. Back to our regular scheduled program. For me, I'm a Taurus. That's my sun sign. And the moon is also Taurus. So some people say the Taurus in the moon is like more of the sensitive side and mothering or being like mother. And then sun sign is like stubborn and the groundedness and all this stuff. When I had my chart read to me by Marine, we were talking about how with the Taurus sun and moon, like people usually feel like safe around me because they feel like the caring and not intimidating, but knowing that they're safe around me. And I thought that was cool how she worded it. And then the Cancer rising sign is very much about like how your emotions are. So if your rising sign is Cancer, think about like emotions and sensitivity and like being aware and stuff like that. Other signs mean different stuff. So you have to figure out what it means for you. Okay. So now that you know where the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets were, then you can look on the right side of like your human design and your gates and all this stuff. And so we covered that a little bit earlier. And basically, it's like the first step is check what your astrology was when you were born. And then it goes into the human design, gives you your profile based on all these things. Like the humans, there's people that study human design for years and years, and they're still learning it. It was channeled by several different people. And that's where I say I don't think it's like an end all be all, but I think it's a great place to think about how you approach things and give you some guidance of your inner self. All right, so surprise, a theme of mine is satisfaction and anger, right? And frustration. And you can tell that with Taurus and Cancer, right? That's always interesting. Now here's Shelley's. I meant to mark hers, but her sun sign is Capricorn down here, and her moon sign is Aquarius, and her rising sign is Sagittarius. All these things mean different stuff, but let's take that over to the human design part. Okay, Shelley, based on her chart, you see how right here it says pure generator? So Shelley is a generator, and her inner authority is sacral. You see how this pink box and this brownish box, 42, 53, is fully connected? That's where a lot of this inner authority sacral comes from. So she has like a direct connection to like her gut feeling. So if she knows that like her gut feels good, she knows to proceed. And then her profile is a 4-6, so it's an opportunistic role model. So people see her as a role model and she enjoys being in different opportunities. And then her theme is also satisfaction, frustration. That's interesting, which I'll talk about more later when we do the gene keys overlay next time. But just keep this in mind: frustration, satisfaction. Okay, so like I said here, Shelley has this sacral connection here, her inner authority. Her strategy is to respond. So is mine. Like respond to the universe or respond to stimulus or ideas that others have, right? So if you're responding, there's the opportunity in the responding. Okay. So let's compare and contrast with me and Shelley. Shelley, generator, sacral authority, opportunistic role model. Her definition is single. You saw that earlier, just the single definition, 42 to 53 connection. Those are called gates. And then for me, emotional manifesting generator, hermit. Usually I'm cool with doing stuff myself. And then there's an opportunity, I'll come to that. And then, so my inner authority would be solar plexus. And that's about like expression. And then my strategy is also to respond. Okay, so this top one is called the head center, and then you have an ajna center, throat, like expression, your G center, heart center, splenic, sacral, root, solar plexus, right? So we saw those a little earlier. So you see in my chart, like a lot of stuff is connected. This is like the very analytical side of me. Like, look, head, ajna, throat, solar plexus, root. And then you have the other part for me of the oops, splenic center to the sacral center. Like that's and you saw in my chart it said split definition, split. So like oops, sorry. So I got two things going on, right? I got like this analytical side of like head and like throat and everything and like awareness and thinking and expression to the root. And I got this other one of like gut feeling. So for me, I often feel like a little bit torn, right? Because I got like the analytical side of me that's like trying to calculate every little thing. And I got the other side of me, even though I know like this stuff, I still have a gut feeling of going against that or something. And so that is sometimes interesting. And when I became aware of human design and gene keys and all this a couple years ago, taking a deep dive, I was like, oh, this is some framework for me to flow into. And as men in particular, sometimes we were taught you don't have emotions other than baby, I love you and anger and frustration. And then suddenly you're like exploring your emotions of the high and the low and deciding and emotional authority and solar plexus and your chakras and your freedom of expression. It's, oh, I can see how this makes a little more sense in human design. So, like for me in particular, when I'm like, oh, my splenic center and my sacral center are connected. And so I can have a gut feeling too. Shelly will have the sacral root center. Like your root chakra is about feeling safe, right? Sacral is about creativity. And so what's interesting for me is on my right side of my abdomen, I lost some of my small intestine. So there's a big scar there, right where the splenic line is to the sacral line. And I'm curious in investigating this because it's really interesting. And I'm like, huh, deeper dive. Okay. So let me check over on the Facebook chat if we have any questions. Looks like we're good right now. Okay. So when you pull up your chart, if you see anything that's fully connected in red or black, that means you have a defined center. And then you can look at that definition in those channels and you can start reading about those channels. And it'll tell you some information that you might learn about yourself. When we put me and Shelly together, what's interesting is sometimes like this is something I find really interesting. Both Shelly and I have completely open heart center, which I think now that we've seen it and talked about it a bit, it's like empathy and being open to all these different things and like picking up and feeling on different stuff. So I thought that was interesting that we both had it completely open. And then like you see how like on mine, like got the head and the ajna and the throat are all connected, right? And then in the middle on number 8, that it's open to the 1. But then Shelly has something on the 33 to 13 channel. So it's if you overlay and superimpose your chart with someone else's chart, maybe a, a partner, like a romantic partner or business partner or family member or whatever, you can see where you can complement each other, which is interesting to take a look at. So if you look at my chart and you overlay it with Shelley's, you could see that there's a lot of things where we can complete each other. And I think that's cool to take a deeper dive into. Some people online specialize in reading charts where they overlay. So that might be something cool for you to take a look at. I think overall, let me go back. I think kind of looking at these types of, okay, a generator, a projector, a manifestor, and reflector, and you just think about it and you're like, I wonder which one I am. Or which one could I be? And like think about that and then look it up and take a look. And then right here, which two go with you? Like, are you a role model? Are you an investigator role model? Like Shelley's son, that's what his is, investigator role model. So it's like you got to figure it out and then like people see you as the role model. What's interesting with the role model is sometimes people don't feel that they are a role model but others see them as a role model. So that's interesting. So where are you in this chart? What's interesting is like me being 2-4 hermit opportunistic and then Shelley being opportunistic role model. It's interesting to see the progression there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then let me turn this on. So this is like a brief intro to human design. And now I want to talk a little bit about gene keys, which is related. It was channeled through a person named Richard Rudd, and he wrote this like big fat book on gene keys, and he's a poet, so it like reads pretty well. And basically, I feel like Gene Keys is like the feminine framework of like how you show up in life. And let me show you that a little bit. Give you a little prelude to the next talk. That's Sunday the 21st at noon Pacific time. You can get your free profile and then register. Okay. So there's this outer sequence. It's the green ones on the very edge. So like life's work, what's your radiance or what your rebirth, your purpose in life, and then your evolution. And in the bottom corner, it tells you about like your genus sequence, your love sequence, and your prosperity sequence. The words that are in bold are called the CD, and then the one in regular text is your gift, and then the italics one is your shadow. So what's interesting is in my life's work, for my life's work quintessence, the gift is simplicity, and then my shadow is complexity. So this is like somewhere for me to flow into with like my ideas and my thoughts and how I approach things. And I think that this has been very helpful for me with like in this spiritual awakening of having somewhere to flow into with human design and gene keys. And for instance, in my life's purpose, learning about forgiveness, not only of others, but also of myself, and learning about that for myself was like really interesting. My gift is understanding, like seeing where other people come from. And then my shadow is intolerance. This is really interesting because let me show you Shelley's. Shelley's life's work is sanctity. Now, sometimes these words don't exactly mean the same as what they would mean in the definitions of in the dictionary. So make sure you check the words in the Gene Keys book. Shelley's shadow, if she's not in her sanctity, is psychosis. And so what does that do? That flares up my intolerance or vice versa. So it's interesting to see how like these interplay between me and Shelley. So it's interesting. So it's related to human design based on astrology and stuff too. But I wanted to give you a little preview to that. So let's see if there's any questions. No questions right now. So if you're on the replay and you have questions, just drop them in the chat and we can come back through and circle back on them. And I hope this was helpful for you. I found that looking into human design, astrology, gene keys was really helpful when after I had done like some psychedelic integration because it gave me some kind of gave me some structure to flow into once I tapped into my emotions because you know nearly at 40 years old like I was told to shut down my emotions since I was like 4 years old. Hey, that's not welcome here, right? And having a place to flow with my emotions was super helpful with like human design. And then how to approach those emotions with gene keys of, oh, that's a shadow. Okay. Oh, and so what's interesting is you like go through all four and you address all four shadows, like you level up. And when you become aware of this, you tend to level up faster. And so it's nice to have gene keys for the framework to flow through that. Of course, there's like the love sequence and like the way to make money sequence and all that. But if you focus on the outer four of like how do you approach problems or conflicts or situations, then it's a good way for you to have a little bit of framework to flow into. So thank you for coming. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, if you have questions, drop them in. I've done some readings for people like in person and gone over their charts. So if that's something you're interested in, you could DM me and we can talk about that. I've done it a few times when I was at the Goddess Night out in Sacramento. We pull up people's human design, pull up their gene keys and just talk about it. If it gets beyond my level of understanding, I can refer you to a couple people that are really good at it, that really love doing it, and we can go from there. All right, have a happy Saturday. Have a great weekend. Look it up, find where you might want to flow into, and see if your human design and your gene keys make sense to you. I'm curious. And drop it in the chat and let us all know where you're at. All right, thank you, and we will see you next time. Bye.